Let me ask you something. Have you ever laid awake at night thinking, we've saved, we've worked really hard, but what if we've missed something for retirement? That quiet fear that doesn't show up on your bank statement, it shows up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Most people don't fail at retirement because they didn't save enough. They fail because they just don't have enough clarity.
And that clarity changes everything. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the On Track Retirement Show. I'm Pat Schmidt.
I'm Jay Curatti. Welcome.
And this show exists to help you stay on track, and have a confident retirement. Not a lucky retirement, not a hopeful or wishful retirement, but a confident one.
As we think about retirement, it's a bit like going on a road trip. Think you're going on a 500-mile journey and it's 30 years ago. And you've got, remember that big atlas that was always right in the middle console?
My dad always had that. It was like the size of a screen door that sat between the center console and the passenger seat.
It was, and it weighed as much as the door behind the screen door. It was just mammoth, and you had to go through and figure it out. So we're on this trip, and we come up to this big orange and white sign that says road closed or bridge out or danger ahead, whatever it may be. And we don't know how to get around it. So we have to stop, pull over, start looking around, maybe following the other cars, hoping they know where they're going.
The atlas didn't say recalculating.
No.
It didn't do that. Yeah.
Not at all. Now what do we have?
And now we have all these navigational tools, right? GPS systems, and it's easy to our cell phones to tell us where accidents are happening, where construction zones are.
Often before we even get there.
Yeah, and my wife appreciates, knowing where all the speed traps are along the way. So we have access to all of those things, now, and retirement is very much the same way, right?
It is so much that same way that if we just don't fully understand what those reroutes look like, if we don't know danger ahead, then we get to the point that there is no second chance then.
And retirees have, in so many ways, accumulated assets. They've done a lot of the hard work, but still a general fear of being on track. What's on track means? It means know where your income is coming from. You understand all of the retirement risks that are out there, and you know why your plan is built the way that it is. Today, we're going to cover three things, Jay. We're going to cover who we are, what this show is all about, and truly why it exists. Probably a good place to start is, who are we listening to, right? Jay, if I can speak to you, you spent over 2 decades. I won't time you beyond that.
Thank you.
Just over 2 decades working with seniors, working with retirees. What keeps you passionate about this?
Pat, I find that through this time, this multiple decade use of working with clients privately and professionally, understanding that I think they're a bit of a lost generation. I think that younger generations, unfortunately, kind of dismiss those in their senior years because they may not seem to be as productive in society or something along that line. Yet what really takes place is I've seen those folks who have retired confidently, and that doesn't necessarily mean they had a lot of money in their bank account. And I've seen a lot of people with a lot of money in their bank account that didn't retire confidently as well. So when we want to retire confidently, we want to travel, we want to spoil our grandkids, we want to have a good night's sleep. Those things that are intangible until they are in fact a tangible asset we need to know about. I've seen people that get anxious. Do we have enough? Do we not have enough? It provides peace. It's just having a plan makes all the difference in the world. As we've helped hundreds of families in this world, we find that they don't take it lightly, and so therefore we don't take it lightly. It is a very important process. What matters more than just money is the conversations. It's providing them an opportunity to say, great, we have X number of dollars in our bank account, but how do we execute it? How do we use it? How does that plan come into place? Oh, yeah, I do remember X, or I do remember Y, whatever it may be. Retirement, I believe, is always much more emotional than it is mathematical.
Yeah, and that perspective is powerful. And myself, I've always enjoyed the planning, the problem-solving approach for retirees. When I think about ourselves and I think about, our incredible retirement advising team, when they're meeting with folks for the very first time, whether that's in person, whether that's a virtual conversation, people aren't seeking performance charts. What they are seeking is security. They're seeking peace of mind. They want to know, am I going to be okay? They want to know, hey, can we retire? Can we stay retired? They're asking, hey, if something happens to me, is my spouse going to be okay? I want them to know that this is going to be a conversation, not just today, but all of the episodes to come, that this is coming from a heart and from an experience of practitioners, not commentators. What I mean by that is there's a lot of talking heads out there. There's a lot of folks that will give you your opinions, but many of them have never had real conversations with real families.
As a result of that, I think, I hope this is accurate. You found this as well, that retirement's just loud. And there's no volume control necessarily. Unless we have a plan, there's no way to just simply turn down the noise. We look at social media, we might not be sleeping well anyway, so we get up and turn on the television and there's an infomercial about all the things we thought we did right, but we didn't do right. All these different things that come in that just have just a lot of noise and just noise. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't provide peace. It creates more confusion than clarity. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're uninformed. It just simply means that it's fragmented and we don't have a plan and there isn't a plan moving forward so that we can have clarity and confidence and peace.
And you said something there too. I want to maybe piggyback off that. There's a difference in having money and in having confidence. Two totally different things. Yeah. And what stems to confidence, it's being able to clearly answer a few questions, right? Questions like, what happens in the next market crash? What happens when taxes go up in the future? What happens if there is a need for long-term care? As an example, pensions obviously were a significant form of income in this country, and they were reliable for so many folks. Those just aren't common anymore. Taxes used to be more predictable than what they are today and likely moving forward. Things just are more complex. They're not as simple as maybe they used to be.
Yeah, it was a point that you go through your career, typically with one company, you get a gold watch in your pension and you move on. Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. Well, in the early 70s, it came to the point that pensions started pulling back, and now we have to find our own income. Pardon me. We also have to find out, what about our taxes? There are things that we have to deal with that are so important. What about managing my own risk? What about my health care? There are questions that have an enormous question mark at the end, and there's no ... There's no opportunity of, but here's what we do. And so it could be right for one, but not right for the other. It's literally all over the place. It's just, we want to simplify things.
There's some major retirement risks, risks that can absolutely derail your retirement. We call these retirement roadblocks. You want to highlight those?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 that we kind of hit on a regular basis. One of the things that we tend to talk to on a regular, better yet, a question that comes in first as folks think about this, and they're informed but uninformed at the same time. There's just some disconnect there. And it's, what about the market? I don't know what the markets do. It's been a great run, but what's tomorrow look like? So market risk is something that's a concern. If you're in a world that you have, say, Social Security, and now all of a sudden you're pulling some of those dollars out to supplement Social Security in your retirement, you go, okay, what's that look like? What about the risk? How long does that last? And then secondly, your taxes, knowing that those dollars that are withdrawn typically haven't been taxed. So I don't want to pay too much. There's Social Security issues, Medicare issues that come into that as well, from things that we'll get into on down the road. Don't want to muddy the waters now, but if we make too much money, we get taxed again. Doesn't make sense, but we do have to deal with taxes in a very clear way. Third is our healthcare. We know that things, as somebody who's older as well, sometimes you need to retread the tires, and life just goes on at that point. And you see doctors, and I remember listening to my parents talk about as they were entering their senior years going, oh my gosh, we go out to dinner with friends and we don't talk about anything. What medicine are you on? And what doctor are you seeing? And what are you seeing these people? So healthcare is really important, but the underutilized, under-recognized is long-term care. What about when we don't
Likely
have
the greatest threat facing retirees?
It is huge. We don't have generational housing. We don't necessarily have kids right around the corner as it was. I walked 2 blocks to my grandmother's house growing up. We just don't have that anymore. And good, bad, or indifferent, much overused cliche, it is what it is. But healthcare is something that's so important that needs to be addressed. And then lastly, a good thing, but also a double-edged sword. The number one concern of folks 65 and older?
Fear of running out of money.
Because they're living longer. So longevity is a big issue that we need to look at. And what if what if my family history is, golly, all my relatives lived until they're 90 and I'm going to retire at 62 or 65 or stop working at that particular point, thinking I have enough assets? Do I? What does that projection look like?
You think about the working years, right? Multiple decades, 25, 30, 35, maybe 40 years, people are saved, and then they got to contemplate. They don't have a crystal ball and know how long they're going to live, but many people post-retirement is just as long as the working years, right? And so that aligns. And then can I throw a fifth roadblock in?
Please.
And this may be the sneakiest of all the roadblocks. We'll address and talk to this and provide some education and clarity on this one down the road, are the fees and costs that people have within their investment plan. And there's not transparency in that, but those fees and costs exist and can pile up, those fees, and really cause chaos for somebody down the road. So in those roadblocks, often we see those, if they are addressed, not always, but if they are addressed, often they're addressed separately. Folks have their investments here and their health plan over here. Their estate plan is maybe in some drawer in the house. So all of those things a little bit all over the place. Where retirement really breaks down is when these risks are not coordinated. Most folks, a lot of folks think, well, I'll just get this product or this, and that's going to address it. What people really need is integration, Jay. They need to bring and tie all of these things together. The analogy that comes to mind for me is, you think about the rowboat with the oars, right? And that rowboat can go really fast when the oars are all going in the same direction. But when they start going opposite, what happens? You don't go nowhere. You're spinning. You're spinning around, and unfortunately, that's what retirement looks like for so many people. They're not going anywhere. They're just challenged because things are working in isolation from one another. What on track means, it's not just a product. It's about a process, a planning process. We use a framework where we use the word impact as an acronym. There's 6 letters in the word impact, and we believe that these are the 6 key components, really the 6 essentials that every great retirement plan needs to have. So the I in the impact is income plan, reliable, predictable income that you can't outlive. The M is a market safe strategy, protection against market downturns. The P is a proactive tax plan. Wow, we will spend a ton of time off that, but people need to recognize their lifetime tax exposure and, more importantly, how to reduce it and how to plan for it. The A is asset protection and estate plan, making sure that they're not leaving a mess for their spouse, not leaving a mess for their loved ones one day as it relates to probate or unnecessary taxes. The C is the care plan, and you touched on that, Jay, is making sure that folks have great plan for really healthcare realities. Let's call them that. Not even risk as much as these are just realities, as we'll talk percentages of likelihood of needing some of those cares later on. And then the T in the word impact, we use transparent and low fee investing. Again, maybe the sneakiest of all of those fears or risks that are out there. It's important that people know exactly what they're paying and what they're paying for.
Great list. One of the things I think we try to do in this as we have conversations, doesn't matter if it moves forward with folks or not, it's just understanding that it's not about chasing the returns. It's not about what the market did over the last 15 years, although that's a good guide. Is it going to do the exact same thing the next 15 years? If it does, we're all going to be really happy. If it doesn't, we're not going to be happy at all. The answers are going to be sometimes happy and sometimes not real happy. We just don't know that predictable nature of saying this is what it's going to look like. Retirement isn't necessarily about beating the market. How do we know how to beat the market? Well, we got to know what the market's going to do before we can beat it. Don't think we can do either one of those with great confidence. Sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't, and that's part of the problem. In my experience, when I chat with folks, the friends that I have growing up through this process, we understand the value of our health. We also understand the value of a good night's sleep, and it's having peace. When if you're married, you give your spouse a kiss, you put your head on your pillow at night, and you get a good night's rest, because this isn't something, said earlier, the noisy aspect. This noise is no longer there. It doesn't cause chaos within your mind.
If you're 5 years from retirement or already retired and don't have a written income plan, a coordinated tax strategy, a clear understanding of your risks, and a clear understanding of how to make sure you're navigating those risks, you're not behind, you're just missing a roadmap. And that's absolutely fixable.
Yeah, more than hope. We hope it's going to work well. We hope it's going to be okay. Hope isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's about clarity. That comes with a plan. So that to me is so important to understand.
And if there's a takeaway from today's show, is confidence doesn't come from guessing. It comes from that C word. It comes from clarity.
Clarity is eliminating confusion. No hype, no fear tactics, no jargon, no shell game, none of that at all. It just becomes very, very clear without confusion.
If today resonates with you, subscribe, follow, share this with a friend. If you want to know where you stand, schedule a complimentary on-track retirement review. That's a no sales pressure conversation, just an opportunity for you to get clarity. You can also visit myontrackretirement.com.
Next time we gather, we're going to dive into some smart investment moves for a worry-free environment.
Until then, give yourself permission to enjoy the retirement you've worked so hard for. We'll see you next time.